A very good evening, everyone. So, here is Shikha again with another lecture on Linux. So, this one is a lecture number 34 of our Linux series. And in today's lesson, I primarily focus on the topic called storage management, and we will be continue with the part 2 of storage management in depth. Okay, so it will be beneficial that you watch the entire video, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel Technical Cloud Knowledge for more upcoming videos and updates on latest technology. So let's look at into the lecture first, and before moving with the lecture, let me tell you that what I have covered on my last lecture. So on my last lecture on storage management, I briefed you a lot regarding the storage management, that how does the hard drive has been formatted on physical server as well as on the virtual server, how the hard drive has been partitioned, how we partition the hard drive, and many more things which I have covered on my last lecture. So if you want to get the overview regarding the storage management, you need to watch my last lecture. Okay, so now let's move to the part 2. Let's look at into the lecture. So suppose this is a physical server. Okay, if you do remember that when you go to the industry, you will see two types of server. The very first is your physical server, and the other one which you see in the industry, it will be the virtual server. Okay, so suppose this one is your physical server, and on the physical server there is a hard drive which is of 500 GB. Okay, so this hard drive is of 500 GB. Now I want to check, like, what is the name, what does this hard drive, which is known as a primary hard drive, do, what does this hard drive is being refer. So we all know that the primary hard drive which we set up on our physical server, the primary hard drive is basically supports operating system. So we set up the primary hard drive on any physical server so that we can install the operating system and we can run our system. Okay, so that's how the primary hard drive is being used, as I've already discussed with you regarding primary hard drive on my last lecture too. Okay, so this primary hard drive will support operating system, and now the question is that what does this primary hard drive is being referred. So this hard drive will be known as SDA. Okay, so on your physical server, whatever be your primary hard drive, it will known as SDA. SDA stands for standard disk. And if there is another hard drive, let's assume there is another hard drive too on your physical server, which is also of 500 GB. Now what does this hard drive will be referred? So as you can see, the first hard drive, your primary hard drive, is being referred to the SDA. So the second one will be referred to SDB. So it will be going on alphabetical order. As you can see, the first one is for A and the second one is B. If there is another hard drive, so it will known as SDC. Okay, so that's how the concept will be goes on. Now we will going to check how we can check the partition, how we can or we can say, like, what is the name of the partition is being provided to these hard drives. So let's assume that this hard drive, which is your SDA hard drive, your primary hard drive, has three partition. Okay, so now what does its partition is being called? So SDA first partition will be known as SDA1. It is the first partition, and its second partition will be known as SDA2. Similarly, the third partition will be known as SDA3. Okay, so that's how the partition will be divided into the hard drive. Similarly, under the SDB hard drive too, if it also has three partition, so its partition will be known as SDB1. The second partition will be known as SDB2, and the third one will be known as SDB3. Okay, so that's how the partition will be, or we can say the partition name will be provided to each of the hard drive. Okay, so that's how the concept will be goes on. If there is another hard drive, and it will known as SDC, and its partition will be known as SDC1, SDC2, SDC3. Okay, so that's how it will be. That partition name has been provided to your physical server. If I move to the virtual server, now let's discuss the partitions and the hard drives in the virtual server. So suppose this is your virtual server, and on your virtual server there are also some hard drives. Let's assume there are two hard drives. Okay, which is also of 500 GB each. Now what does its hard drive will be known as? is it also SDA or something else? So let me clear with you that the virtual servo hard drive will not be known as SDA, it will be referred to VDA. Okay, which will stands for virtual disk alphabetical order A. Okay, and if I talk about the second one, it will be known as VDB, virtual disk B. As you can see in the numerical words, it will be known as 1 2 3. So similarly in the alphabetical order, it is known as A B C. Okay, so it will be known as VDB. And its partition, let's assume each of the hard drives has 3 partition. Okay, each of them has 3 partition each. So first let's create VDA partitions. VDA also has 3 partition and the VDB 2 as well. So its first partition will be known as VDA 1. Similarly, second partition will be known as VDA 2 and the third one will be known as VDA 3. As we can see in the physical server 2, we are working on the partition type and we are referring them as SDA1, SDA2, SDA3. Similarly, in the virtual server 2, its hard drive partition will be known as VDA1, VDA2 and VDA3. So if I talk about its second hard drive, its partition will be also known as VDB1, VDB2 and VDB3. So I hope you are clear with that much. Let me write it there as well. VDB1. The second one will be known as VDB2 and the last one will be known as VDB3. Okay. So I hope you are clear with that much, like what is the hard drive is being known under the physical server as well as on the virtual server, and what are its partition will be referred to. Okay, so I hope you are clear with that much. Now we will going to move further. So my question is that what's the name or what's the hard drive is being called on cloud? Suppose if you're working on the cloud platform, even if it is AWS or Azure cloud or even the GCP cloud, any of them, even you're working any of the cloud platform, what does their hard drive will be known as? So on the cloud platform, the hard drive will be known as XVDA. What does it will be known as? XVDA. Okay, so XVDA on the cloud platform, the hard drive will be known as XVDA. Here, XVDA and VDA, there is no much difference between them. XVDA is known as extended virtual disk. Okay, so it will, if it is also has some partitions, so its partition will be referred to XVDA 1, XVDA 2, XVDA 3. Okay, similarly, it will goes on like the virtual server on the virtual server. Okay, so there is no much difference between VDA and XVDA. Just the on the cloud they have their hypervisor choice, they want to use X before VDA, so they are using it. There is no much difference between them, and do not confuse between these two things. Okay, so I hope you are clear with that much, what's the hard drive name and what's its partition will be referred to. Now in the storage management topic, we will move further with how many types of partition in the hard drive. Okay, so if I talk about the partition types in the hard drive, there are two ways in which we can do the partition of the hard drive. Okay, suppose this is your hard drive, which is about 500 GB. Even you can call it disk as well. Okay, so what are the two ways to do the partition of hard drive? So the very first way is your MBR method. So MBR method, and the second way in which you can do the partition of the hard drive is the GPT method. Let me make you understand regarding both of the methods, why we use these methods to do the partition of the hard drive, and what are the main use case, benefit or drawbacks of using these two partition methods. Okay, so first we will going to understand the MBR method. What is the MBR method? So MBR refers for master boot record. Let me write it there as well. Okay, so MBR is being referred to master boot record. In the MBR allows you that you can create up to 4 partitions of your hard drive. Okay. Okay, so MBR allows you to create at least 4 partition of your hard drive. In MBR method, basically it is compatible with older legacy BIOS system. It will provide which has been used in older generation PC. Okay, so it is provide older BIOS system. In nowadays, if we talk about the industries, they do not use the MBR concept because according to them, it is the older concept and which will not provide the valuable storage and enough storage for their data. So basically, MBR says that you can create up to 4 partition of the hard drive. In the 4 partition, you can create all four. All of them are primary. Even you can do other thing is that you can create partition primary, and the last one, which is your fourth partition, you can make it extended to. So let's discuss what are the main difference between if we create all four of them primary and if we create three of the partitions primary and the other one remaining one would be extended. So what's the difference between them? Okay, so suppose if I'm creating all four of the partition would be primary. Basically what happens when you create all the primary partitions, all of the four of the partitions of your hard drive would be primary, then what happens, the first one, in the first one you will install your operating system. The first one partition will be taken for the operating system, okay, will be used for the operating system. Now the remaining 3 partitions will be used for the data storage. You can store your data even if it is your files, documents, media, whatever be your data, you can store in these 3 partitions. But after that, when you use all three, when you create all the partitions primary, you are not eligible to create more partitions or more logicals. You cannot extend your hard drive size, or you cannot increase your storage of your hard drive. So this is the we can say drawback of creating all four primary. We cannot able to create more partitions in the hard drive, as well as we are not able to increase the storage of hard drive. Okay, whereas if we whereas if we create 3 partitions primary by using the MBR concept, and the remaining one would be extended, so what will happen? Basically, if you create, the first one would be refer for the operating system, and the remaining two in which you can store your data, and the last one you are using extended partition. In the extended partition, you can create logicals, you can create more partition, you can increase the storage of your hard drive. That's why it is being referred to use 3 partitions primary and the remaining one would be extended. Okay, so that you will able to extend your hard drive size as well. And in the extended partition, it allows you to create up to 56 partitions. You can create up to 56 extra partition by using the extended partition method. So how much logicals you can create, or should I say the partitions, you can create up to 56. But when you check on the Red Hat documents or wherever on the Google as well, they will provide you some other different data. Some of the few documents of Red Hat will provide you that you can create around only the 11 partitions or 11 logicals, whereas if you check it on the Google, it will provide you the other value that you can create only 23 or 26 logicals by using the extended partition. But in reality, you can create up to 56 partition by using the extended partition. Okay, so this is the main thing in the MBR, that we can create 3 partitions primary and the remaining one would be extended, in which you can create 56 logicals. Okay, so that's how we can extend the hard drive. Okay, so this is the main thing. One more thing which I would like to tell you, that MBR allows you to MBR, suppose this is your hard drive which is about 5 TB. Okay, And what happens, you have created here 4 partitions. Okay. 3 would be primary and the other one you have created, it is extended. Sorry. Okay, now what happens? Ambia says that even if you create your first partition would be 2 TB or 1 TB, it doesn't matter. Suppose if I'm creating my first partition, it would be 2 TB. Okay, and the remaining 3 TB, I'm using it 1 TB, 1 TB each to remaining partitions. Okay, now the Ambia says you can only use the 2 TB storage even if it is only the your first partition. Remaining the storage of your hard drive will be wasteful. You cannot use that, which means you can only use your first partition storage, which is about 2 TB. Ambia says that you can only use the 2 TB storage in which you want to store anything you can do, but after remaining storage you are not eligible to use, which means if your hard drive is about 5 TB, it doesn't matter, you can only use the 2 TB storage. Remaining there 3 TB storage is just wasteful. So this is the we can say this is the drawback or the consequence. That's why the industries opt for the GPT method. Okay, they opt for the GPT concept, which is way more flexible and compatible as compared to the Ambia method, because they in the GPT method you will find many beneficial things as compared to Ambia. So let's talk about the GPT method as well. Okay, why does the industries is being used GPT method instead of using Ambia, which is the older or we can say traditional method of doing the partition. Now let's move to the GPT method. So this is your hard drive in which you are using GPT method. So let's understand what does the GPT is being stands for. So GPT stands for guide, partition table. Okay, in the GPT, basically GPT is compatible with UEFI BIOS system, which is a newer version of your in the many of the generations, we can say in many of the PC right now UEFI BIOS system is being used. UEFI stands for Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. So basically, most of the PC used UEFI BIOS system, which is very flexible, and it is very it supported the GPT method as well. Okay, so in the GPT says you do not need to create any partition, primary or even extended. You can create up to 128 logicals or partitions of your hard drive. So here you do not need to create any primary or extended partition, you can simply create 128 partitions. Okay, now under the GPT, the maximum size of your hard drive you can store your data would be 9.7 zettabyte, which is way more enough than as compared to MBR. Okay, so how much data you can store in the under the GPT hard drive? You can create 9.7 zettabyte. If I talk about in TB, it will be referred to 1 billion TB. Okay, as you are able to know that it is way more enough than than MBR. Okay, MBR is only provided us 2 TB data storage, but if we talk about the GPT is providing us a 9.7 zettabyte storage. So I hope you are clear with both of them. why the industry is being using GPT method instead of using the MBR method, because it is way more flexible and compatible as compared to MBR, and it provides a lot of storage. Because in the industry there is not, they do not generate a small or little amount of data, they do generate a big amount of data, in which, that's why they do have their big data center on which they have set up their hard drives, and then so whatever be the data would be generated, they will take up the storage from these hard drives. So that's why the industry is being opt for GPT concept. Okay, now in the interview you might face some questions related to GPT and MBR method as well. So in the interview you might face such a question like, can we upgrade MBR concept to GPT concept? What do you think, would we able to create upgrade it? So to answer this, the answer is a big no. We cannot upgrade MBR method to GPT method. If we want to upgrade, or if we want to change from MBR method to GPT method, we want to change it completely. We need to format a new hard drive in which we need to set up a new, we can say a new method. We need to configure GPT based configuration. We need to done in our hard drive. Okay, then we will take the backup of MBR hard drive. Then we will store it or paste it on our GPT method like GPT hard drive. Basically what happens, suppose you have a hard drive, suppose this is a hard drive, okay, in which you have configured MBR based configuration. It is a MBR based hard drive. Now you want to upgrade it to GPT. So for that you need to create a new hard drive in which you need to done GPT based configuration. You need to change it completely. You need to remove this hard drive which is based on MBR. Okay, so you need to delete this hard drive, and the backup would be stored under move to this hard drive which is GPT. So that's why you can do that. You are not able to upgrade it from MBR to GPT. You need to change it completely by removing the first, which is MBR hard drive. Okay, so that's how it happens. Now open the VMware workstation. Okay, so first we will going to do, we will going to check what are the, which one is the hard drive is being currently used or available in my system. So for that you need to execute the command called fdisk-l. As you can see on my system, this hard drive is being or currently available. So we can even go to the dev directory and check the content. As you can see here as well, this one, nvm0 and 1. Okay, so this hard drive is being should I say currently available on my system. In some of the systems it will be the SDA. As you can see, the primary hard drive which I have discussed with you right now, so it will be known as SDA. Okay, but right now on my system it will be referring here nvm0 and 1. Okay, so I hope you are clear with that much. You can even check the hard drives by executing the lsblk command. Here you can see the hard drives and its partition too. In my hard drive right now there is only one partition, and this partition is for the primary partition. And if you check it here as well, see, in the partition 1 there is being referring here star. So what does the star is being referred here? So basically the star refers for the operating system, that this partition has the operating system. Similarly in the SDA hard drive 2, here you can see in the partition 1 of SDA you can see there is the star. So basically there is also star is being referred for the operating system, that's the partition has the operating system. Okay, now I want to create a new hard drive. I want to add a new hard drive on my system. So for that what you need to do, so you need to follow these steps. As you can see here, you need to go to the settings and come under the memory option and just press the add option. Okay, here you will able to find hard disk. Just refresh it first, go to the hard disk and just next and then finish. Just click on the next button and next option and then finish. Okay, and then press OK. So when you do these things, if first, one more thing you need to do, you need to reboot your system so that whatever be the changes we have done, it will be saved and our hard drive will be available in our front of us. So just reboot your system. So as you can see, it has been boot up. Now we will going to log in with the root user. Okay. So now you need to check the hard drive as the hard drive has been done, added or not. So as you can see, disk dev SGB has been added on our system. We can even check by executing the lsblk command. See here SGB. Okay, so now we will going to come under this hard drive in this disk, and we will going to create some new partitions. Okay, so first if we want to come under this, we need to execute the command fdisk along with the directory name and then the disk name. So as you can see in the output, you will also getting a message, welcome to fdisk. Okay, so here it is asking command M for help. So let's execute M. We will able to know the options, whatever be the options is available in the hard drive, so that we can create a new partition and what are the main things which we can do by these options. So as you can see, these are the options you can use and do some modification or changes or exit whatever you want to do with these options. So to create a new partition, you need to execute the alphabet N. Okay, add a new partition. So we will going to write N and then execute it. So as you can see here, it is asking for the partition type. P for primary and E is referring for the extended partition. And if you do not select any of them, if you do not select primary as well as extended, so by default it will take the primary partition. So let's do not select any of this and let's take it by default primary. Okay, so it has been taken the primary partition itself. Now it is asking for the partition number, which partition you want to create primary, first, second, third or fourth. So let's let it also make it by default. So you do not need to press anything, it will by default take the first partition primary. So just press enter. After that it is asking for the sector. Now let's understand what does here sector is being referring here. So if I talk about the sector, suppose this is a classroom. Okay, and under your classroom there are many columns and rows. Okay, in these columns there are many desks, or we can say some seats has been available for each and every student. Okay, so there are many seats available for you. You can choose any of them, but remember these two rows has been filled up with the students. Now you are only able to choose any of these remaining these seats. Now similarly goes with the sector 2. There are, suppose there are many sector, under these sector there are many columns and rows. Okay, and these two rows has been filled up with the partitions. Now you are only eligible using these partition sector. You can only use these sectors for your partition. So if you want to select this one, you can select this one according to your choice. If you want to choose this one or this one, it is up to you, but you can only choose from this to this sectors. So that's what it is referring here. It is asking for you 20482 to that number value. It is providing with this number value to this. You can choose any of the sector between these value. Okay, so by default, if you do not choose any of the sector, by default it will take the first number sector, which is 2048. So let's take it by default. Just press enter. Now the last sector, which is asking for the size, you can refer the size. So suppose if I want to create my partition would be 5 GB, so here you need to refer the size. Here you need to write the size. I'm saying that make my partition would be 5 GB. So here you need to write plus 5, and along with the whatever be the value you want to choose, whatever be the metric unit you want to give. I'm referring here G for GB, and if you want to make it in KB, you need to write it here K, or if you want to make it in MB, you need to write it here M. So I'm writing here G because I want that the partition would be made into GB. So just press this. See what's the output we are getting. So here it is showing that created a new partition 1 of type Linux, and it is a primary partition which is of 5 GB. You can even execute an option called P. It will print the partition. So as you can see, your partition has been printed. Okay, so here you can see anything, everything, the sector, your main thing, sector, size, ID, and the partition 1, SGB 1. Similarly, if you want to create second partition, we will going to create a new partition. Just execute the option N for a new partition. Then again it is asking for the partition type, primary or extended. Let's take it also by default P for primary. And then I want to create second partition, so let's press enter. By default it will take the second partition number, and sector, it also, I also want that by default it will take whatever be the sector is available for my partition. So just press enter. And the last thing, I want to provide a size limit to my partition. I want to provide it 5 GB again. Okay, so here you need to execute plus 5 along with G. Just press enter. See, it is also showing created a new partition 2. Your second partition has also been done, which is about 5 GB. You can print it as well. Just execute P option. See, two partition has been created, which is of both of them each of 5 GB. If you want to create another partition, again press an option called N. Again it will by default take P. Let's again make it primary. Then by default number 3. First sector, by default take the sector. And last thing, I want to provide the size limit. So I'm saying provide 5 GB size limit to my new partition, which is the third partition. Okay, just press enter. Your third partition has been done. Now print it, execute P option. So see, here your 3 partition has been done. Now it's time for your last partition, which is your fourth partition. You can make it primary as well as you can make it extended. So if you make it primary, you are not eligible to create more partition after that. Okay, and if you make it extended, you can create more partition, whatever be the size limit has been provided to your extended partition. Okay, so we will going to work in both ways. So first let's create the fourth partition, primary itself. Okay, execute an option. See, what is here referring here? P for primary and E for extended. But if we only press enter, so by default it will take the extended partition. But I'm saying I want the primary partition. So here you need to write P, which is your primary partition. Now it is asking for the primary partition, selected partition type already 4. Now it's asking for the first sector. So I want by default whatever be the sector is available for my partition, take it. So press enter. Your last sector, your size. So I want to make it 5 GB itself. Okay, so if you do not choose any of the GB, so it will by default take 5 GB, because the remaining GB has been remaining GB is only 5 GB, so by default it is also take 5 GB. Let's do it as well. We will able to see that. See, by default it has taken the 5 GB because the remaining value is only 5 GB. So if you print it, your 4 partition has been done. Now if you want to create another partition, if you want to create more partition, you are not eligible to create because you have created all your partition. All 4 partitions are primary. Let's do it as well. See what is the output we are getting here. So it is showing to create more partitions. First replace a primary with an extended partition. If you want to create more logicals, if you want to create more partitions of under your hard drive, you need to first replace your first even if it is your fourth partition or whatever be, you need to create one partition which is primary, you need to make it extended. Okay, so let's do it as well because I want to create more partitions. So for that you need to delete a partition. Just press D option. Now it is asking for the partition number, which partition you want to delete. If you want to delete first, second, third or fourth, and by default if you do not select any of the partition number, by default it will delete the partition number 4. So I want that by default delete my partition 4. I want to create it extended one. Okay, so delete C. Your partition 4 has been deleted. You can even check it by just option execute the option P. See, your 3 partition is available and the 4th one is deleted. Now I want to create a new partition which is the extended one. So press an option. By default it will take E for extended. So by default let's take it. Sector is also by default. Just provide the size limit. Okay. So I'm saying 5 GB. Okay. Okay, so it is showing value out of range. Let's take it by default. Okay, so 5 GB. Okay. Now our extended partition has been done. We can print it. See, now in this extended partition you can create more partitions. Okay, you are eligible to create more partitions under the 5 GB limit. So let's create another partitions. First sector, just provide the size limit. I'm saying that create my this logical or the partition would be around 2 GB. Your partition has been done. Print it. See, fifth partition is also able to done. Now we have only the 3 GB limit under our extended partition. So we can create another partition. Let's create another partition. Let's make it 1 GB each. It is also done. Print it. See, partition 6 has also been done. Till now we are also able to have 2 GB limit. So we will going to also create 2 partition more. So for that press an option. By default size just provide 1 GB. If you do not provide, it will take the remaining GB, whatever be the remaining GB is available. So it will take the 2 GB itself. Okay, so I'm saying that provide me 1 GB data storage for this partition. So your 7th partition is also done. Print it. See here. And the last, now you can create the last partition because your extended partition limit is 5 GB and you have created, see here, 4 GB. So we have last partition. Provide the size 1 GB. Okay, so it is showing value out of range. By default it will make it under MB. So print it. See, your 8 partition has been done. Okay, so that's how we are able to make partitions. Now we are not eligible to create more partitions. See, no free sectors available. Okay, so our partition has been done. So now I have a question for you guys, that now would you able to store your data under these partitions? So to answer this question, you cannot store the data under these partition because right now it is not being formatted. First we need to format this. First of all we need to provide these partitions data to the kernel. That kernel has to know that these partition has been done, has been available on our system. So first we need to let to know kernel itself. Okay, so to let to know kernel, first we need to save these changes. Press W. As you can see, your partition table has been altered, it has been saved. Now here you need to execute the command part probe and the directory name. After that you need to write the disk name. So now your kernel will also able to know that you have SGB partitions. It is also able to know that in your system some of the partitions related to SGB is available now. Okay, now we are able to, what we will going to do now, we will going to format these partitions with some of the file system. Let's make it to, let's provide these partitions the file system called ext2. Okay, so to format these, first we will going to run the command blkid. See, as you can see here, till now from here to here, the those partitions or those drive which have before uuid, before the file system, they have assigned the file system. Wherever the uuid word is being written in the hard drive, here you can see the file system has been assigned in such type of hard drive, or should I say the partitions. You can see here as well uuid is being written, so the file system has also been assigned. But the partitions which we have created yet, in these partitions uuid word is not being written. Here it is written part uuid, which means the file system is not being assigned to these partitions. We need to assign these partitions a file system, or should I say we need to format these partitions with some file system. So to assign a file system to any of the partition, we need to execute the command mkfs, and whatever be the partition you want to assign, whatever be the file system you want to assign to the partition, you need to write it here. Suppose I'm writing here ext2. I want that my partition would be format with ext2 file system. So mkfs along with .ext2, and then your directory name along with your partition name. So I'm here referring provide this file system to sgb1 partition. See, your partition has been able to provide the file system, has been assigned with file system. You can run or execute the command blkid. Here you can see sgb1 has able to get the partition file system. Okay, similarly we will do with other partitions too. I'm providing the same partitions, same for file system to each of the partitions. Okay, so that you will able to understand this. You can even provide another file system to each of the partition. If you want to make it ext3, if you want to provide xfs file system, you can do that as well. There is no some necessary or compulsory that you need to provide ext2 file system only. I am providing because I think it is easy for understand. You can able to understand this very easily. Okay, that's why I'm providing the ext2 file system to each and every partition. Run blkid. See, our second partition is also able to get the file system. Similarly, you need to do the same thing with other partition too. First, we will going to provide the file system to each of the partitions. We have 8 partition itself. Okay. Run blkid. See, all of the partitions has been able to get the file system. This one is not the partition which we have created. Okay, so this one are the partitions sgb 1 2 3 4, I think. Okay, the fourth one is not here because we have deleted this partition, because we have created this one the primary, and after that we have created the partition extended. Okay, so that's why it is not here being available. So now we are able to format the file system to the partitions. Now what we will going to do, now we will going to, let me make you understand in a better way. Suppose this is your server. Okay, and on your server this is your hard drive. You have format your hard drive with some of the file system. Let's make you have format your hard drive with ext2 or ext3 file system. Okay, now we all know we need to mount this file system to an application or the directory wherever the data is being generated or wherever the data is being stored. So I want to mount this file system to my application 1. Okay, because the data I want to whatever be the data is generated by the application 1, I want to store this data on my hard drive. So that's how we need to format. Now we need to mount up our partitions with some directory, or should I say some resources. Okay, so wherever the data, whatever be the data of this directory or the file has, we will save in this data to the hard drive. So for that we need to create a directory. Let's create a directory called cloud. Okay, come under cloud directory, check content. So right now there is no content available under the cloud directory. We need to uh, give some data, or provide some data to the cloud directory. So for that you need to execute touch. I'm saying that create around 100 files under the cloud directory. So I'm executing the touch command. Okay, now execute the ls command. By mistake, sorry, we need to write two dots. See, 100 files has been generated, is now being the content available under cloud directory. Now we want to mount this directory with our partition. Okay, so I want to mount sda1 partition, that the whatever be the data available under cloud directory will be mounted up by sda1 partition. So for that, to mount the data, okay, to mount the data, first as you can see, run lsblk command. Here you can see in the sdb1 mount point is nothing, it is showing blank. Now we will going to mount up. So for that you need to execute the command mount along with your directory name and your partition number. Then you need to give your directory name, whatever with the directory you have created yet. So it has been mount. Now execute the lsblk command. See, mount point is showing cloud. Similarly, you can provide the mount, or you can provide the whatever be the data is generated under whatever be in which directory or in which application, you can mount with this partition. Okay, suppose I'm creating another directory called India. Okay, now come under the India directory. Execute ls. Right now there is no content available under India directory. I want to make that some of the content would be available under India directory, so I'm going to create some files. I'm going to create some files named laptop, and I'm going to make it around 10 files. Okay, so now execute ls. So as you can see, 10 file is available for laptop. Okay, now we will going to mount up this directory with the partition number 2. So for that you need to execute the command mount directory, your partition number, and along with your directory, whatever be the directory you have created yet. So now run lsblk command. See, your second partition is also been able to mount up with the India directory. So that's how we can do so. So I hope you are clear with the partition, how we can do the standard partition. Okay, so this is the lab of the standard partition, and I hope you are clear with that much. So for more videos and more knowledge regarding Linux, you need to tune with us with our technical cloud knowledge, and with me, Shekha. So that's it for today, and thanks for watching.